Hey dear people, just recently I got my Omnibook. It's really old and just thought I would check out a little bit of Charlie Parker, and then I listened to the tune Coco, which is actually Cherokee, right? It's pretty fast, and I just realized how many cool licks are in this solo, and just like what I want to do is to take like really small snippets, but really like small, and just do my own sort of thing with it, right? Just like try and experiment to find stuff that sounds cool. So this one is already very cool. It's over a B flat chord and he's playing a triad, right? And an enclosure, a diatonic enclosure. B flat, the chord is B flat and he's just playing a B flat triad. And doubling the root, sort of, right? It's because I'm investigating third relationships of chords. I'm playing a B flat major chord, a D major chord, an F sharp chord, and I'm just trying to play like triads all over the fretboard, like arpeggios of triads, and I'm changing to the next chord via the one note that exists in both triads, just playing that across the fretboard and not like thinking too much about bars or stuff, but just like checking out the triad shapes on my fretboard. Some people copy licks and transcribe stuff, and they really sound a lot like a specific guitar player, because most of the time they want to really sound like this person. They maybe even buy the same guitar, have the same set of strings, and really dig the style, the time period, and sometimes even everything else is dismissed and not cool. So they're very specific about the stuff that they like. So this little phrase works very well over a C7, right? Starting on the 13th and then playing an upper structure, E half diminished, right? Arpeggio. And then ending on the A again. So ending and starting on a color note, right? There's a lot of ways how you can interpret this lick, but what I want to do, because I want to play more color notes, and really hear that sound that's so cool. So I recorded myself like a mini jam track on my so I recorded sort of a mini jam track using 2 minor 7 chords and just like, jamming over them. I like to use even 8s, right? Because I don't like the swing on the iReal book. And I'm just going to try to play this same phrase over those chords. And Charlie Parker's licks are just like full of very clever melodic phrases. I'm sure if you have been listening to jazz, you heard it somewhere, right? People have been working with it forever because it's so logical and it sounds so good. And let's listen to the next one. Right, this one is kind of famous, right? And it's sort of a 2-5, and I'm going to play it over a 2-5 major. And I want to change it up a little bit, so instead of playing a 2-5-1 in A major, I'm going to play that same line over a 2-5-1 in F sharp minor, which is the relative minor, and let's hear how that sounds. Some people might not worry too much about a certain style, but they just collect stuff they like the licks they like and the songs they like. They trust in the process of it all, everything that they learn and digest and everything that they listen to and that influences them will appear in their playing in a more or less organic way, and they believe just in the process, that the process is going to make them a better player. But there's also the component of fear, right? The fear of making a fool of yourself, of playing a really terrible solo, and some people start on planning licks, right? So they plan when and where in a specific tune they're going to play a lick that they learned, and they might always play it in that space, right? Because it sounds so good and it can be quite impressive. And if you don't know the person and you don't listen for like more than one chorus, you can think about him or her being a really good guitar player. But sometimes it becomes obvious after more choruses that there's no build up and no storytelling, but that it's just an accumulation of lines that they learned by heart. So one thing that's often neglected, right, is the rhythm, and Charlie Parker is starting a lot of his phrases on the 3 in the bar, and that sort of gives us the impression it could be the 1, but it is actually the 3, and it's like a device for turning around the beat, but he does it on purpose. And just be sure that you start this phrase on the 3, and also the following phrase is starting on the 3. So this is a really cool line, and it starts on C minor, so the chords are C minor, G7, 1-5-1, right? And again, he's playing like a minor triad. Right, it's very simple but also very clear. And then changing to the G7. This is very famous as well, right? A diminished arpeggio starting on the 3. And then an E flat major arpeggio on the C minor 7. Ending on the E flat, right? And I really like how this line moves across the fretboard, and the way I would practice it is just like repeating it very often. I always try to play it slowly 10 times without a mistake before I set the speed up to a higher tempo. On the sharp 9, that's very cool, but also he's playing some triplets. It's 1 triplet, 2 triplet, which is so cool. Just to introduce some triplets, you can count 1 triplet, 2 triplet, right, and start maybe on the 3rd of a chord, and then chromatic, and then 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. And I sort of put that together with a diminished long form arpeggio just because I thought that would work out really well. So let's say we have a G7, and then we would play the diminished arpeggio starting on the A flat. Right, you know the long form arpeggio is basically that means 2 notes per string. And then I would just like insert this little chromatic melody thing starting from each note of the long form arpeggio. has to give it a place where I can practice this 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, because also that's really good training, right? To play. I think nobody can ever practice that enough. And also some people completely dismiss the idea of transcribing or copying licks from anybody. They're doing their own thing and they're practicing and playing in their own way. And I think that's cool, but also I think sometimes when we see people who play really very great, if we see them on stage or watch a video, we think we can do that as well. I think it has something to do with the mirror neurons, and it's sort of not true, and it can lead us down a complicated route of thinking too highly of ourselves and dismissing the abilities that those players have. So sort of a remedy sometimes is to really go and try to play that stuff and really to understand how much skill and how much everything sort of goes into playing in that way. And then I thought I'm just going to play the first 5 notes of this line, only going to play the first chord of the 2-5-1, you know, because I'm reducing stuff, it makes it easier to apply it, right? So I'm going to take 3 random minor 7 chords, let's say D minor 7, E flat minor 7, B flat minor 7. I'm recording myself a loop and I'm going to play the last chord 2 bars for the sake of having a 4-bar loop, which is always a good idea. This way I'm again landing on a color note. I'm landing on the 13, which is a beautiful note in this context because it's a color note on the minor 7 chord. It's more like a modal sound, right? In a functional harmony sound or a context like 2-5-1, this note would already sort of indicate the 5 coming up, so maybe not the best choice. But like this, it sounds already a little bit more modern, and I like this really very much. So have fun exploring your own stuff, listen to the great musicians from the past and the present, and just remember, if you're feeling stuck, the smallest idea or also the smallest change of attitude can open like a whole new world for you. And it's really the little things, the details, the way you look at it and incorporate it into your playing. It doesn't mean to, you know, have like a huge task at hand. Just take one little step and be inspired. I see you next week. Hope you're all doing very fine. If you have any questions, please write them down in the comment section below. And if you like this video, you might also like this video about 10 Chopin etudes that I sort of did my own thing with them too. Bye.